The year was 1969. A grainy screen flickered. A voice crackled, "One small step for man." The world held its breath, but you know, something about the footage always gnawed at me. Years later, I found myself alone in a dark room replaying that broadcast. The hiss of static, the ghostly figures bouncing in slow motion. My stomach tightened. Shadows stretched in different directions as if lit by more than one source. My heart raced. On the moon with one sun, how could that be? That was the situation, a simple recording, a childhood memory. And the desire? To know if humanity had really leapt beyond the earth, or if we had been handed an illusion, staged on the ground we walk every day. The conflict came fast. Every question was brushed aside. It was the cameras. It was the dust. Excuses piled up. But the deeper I looked, the stranger it became. Why no stars in the sky? Why did the flag ripple, though no air exists to move it? Why did the astronauts' footprints press crisp into powder? Yet the landing module left no crater beneath it. The clock ticked past midnight as I leaned closer to the glowing screen, sweat on my palms. The shadows still haunted me. If this was real, why did it look so staged? Why did it feel more like a studio than the surface of another world? Then came the change. I stumbled across records, NASA quietly admitting they lost the original tapes. Lost. The most important achievement in human history, and the master footage vanished. My chest tightened. My breath caught. Who loses history unless there was something to hide? And the result? Well, it's a shiver of realization, isn't it? Maybe the greatest show ever broadcast wasn't really proof of space exploration. It was proof of manipulation. Proof that with enough trust, people will accept the unbelievable. And if they could fake the sky once, what else might they be hiding about the ground beneath our feet? So here's my challenge. Don't take the moon landing as sacred. Watch it again. Look at the shadows, the flag, the missing stars. Ask the questions they don't want asked. Because, you know, the greatest flat earth proof isn't out there on the moon. It's in the cracks of the story they sold you. And if this shook you even for a moment, share it, follow, because honestly, the truth doesn't just demand to be seen. It demands to be faced.
And when you start tying in and you start listening to people at 5D Perception, listen to Flat Earth Dave, you know, listen to John Levy, Jonlevi, listen to My Lunch Break, all information is just beginning to explode out. And these are all the conspiracy theorists. Oh, these are all crazy people. No, they're the love and light people. They're the people with their eyes open. They're the people that are functioning from their heart. They're breathing in truth, and they know as they, from inside, they work from their own love and light, and they put their own love and light out into the world, and they see the world through truth, because the prism of truth is love and light. That's the frequency that we are as human beings.
Do you recognize the kind of skill that you would have to do that with a hammer and chisel, and how long it would take? Like, look at this as well. If I go directly in the middle, you will see that this building is perfect. It's absolutely, like, as I walk towards, look at the top bit, it's absolutely perfect. Like, it's perfectly centered, it's perfectly aligned. My camera work probably could do with a bit of steadiness, but you see what I mean? Like, this is precision craftswork. This isn't, they didn't do that. Whoever made this didn't do it with a hammer and chisel and a scaffold and a pickaxe. That's not what happened.
If the Earth is flat, why is Antarctica colder than the North Pole? So picture this, we've got two ends of the Earth, right? On the globe model, the Arctic is up top and Antarctica is down at the bottom. Both get about the same sunlight, both are covered in ice, both are supposed to be extreme. But in reality, the North Pole is warmer, it has seasons of melting ice. It even has wildlife and plants surviving there. Meanwhile, Antarctica, it's a giant desert of ice. No trees, no villages, no cozy little animals. Just endless ice walls, freezing winds, and temperatures so brutal that humans can't even live there permanently. Doesn't that already sound suspicious? Now here's where it gets interesting. On the flat Earth model, Antarctica isn't a little continent at the bottom. It's actually a massive ice ring that surrounds the entire world. That changes everything. If Antarctica is the edge barrier, it means it's constantly shielded from direct sunlight. Unlike the North Pole, which gets the sun circling overhead throughout the year, The Antarctic ring sits on the farthest reaches, always catching the weakest angle of the sun's light. That would explain why it's colder, why it's harsher, and why it feels like a frozen prison nobody can escape. And think about this. Why do we hear about expeditions to the North Pole, but never about freely exploring Antarctica? Why are there international treaties signed by dozens of countries making sure regular people can't just go there on their own? If it's just a frozen wasteland, what's there to hide? Maybe it's because if anyone could explore it fully, they'd realize it's not just a continent. It's the very edge of our world. Here's another thought. On the globe model, the sun is supposed to be 93 million miles away, blasting the Earth evenly. But if that were true, how could the North Pole be warmer than the South when they're basically the same thing? Shouldn't both poles be equally frozen? Unless, of course, the sun is much closer, much smaller, and moving in circles above us, like a spotlight. In that case, areas closer to the center, like the Arctic, get more direct exposure. Areas farther out, like Antarctica, are lit from a distance, which keeps them colder. Suddenly, everything starts making sense. And one more thing, why do we see videos of penguins in Antarctica, but not thriving human settlements? Yet, in the Arctic, we've got people living there, building communities, raising families. If both poles are supposedly the same, why is one livable and the other forbidden? Could it be because one is just ice floating in the ocean while the other is a massive wall encircling us, keeping everything in? So the next time someone says, if the Earth is flat, why is Antarctica colder than the North Pole? Flip the question back on them. Ask, if Earth is a globe, why isn't it equal? The truth is, the flat Earth model doesn't just explain it better, it also raises the kind of questions the mainstream never wants us asking. If this video got you thinking, don't stop here. There's way more they're not telling you. Check out the next video on this page, because once you see how deep this rabbit hole goes, there's no going back.
I never wanted to be a flat earther. I didn't start out gung-ho about flat earth. I was real reluctant to believe it because I didn't need that kind of ostracism and ridicule in my life. I heard B.O.B. was a flat earther and I laughed on the floor, guys. I could not believe. I thought, what kind of bush is this guy smoking to believe that the earth is flat? But I was also at that time studying applied neuroscience, biochemistry, epigenetics, steroidogenesis, and the smartest guy I'd ever met in my life told me to look into it. And so I couldn't just call him stupid. I looked into it. Within 5 minutes, I could tell we had no real pictures of the Earth from space. No private companies ever go to space. It's only government companies or government subsidized companies like SpaceX. And so my problem at first is the same problem a lot of people in this chat are going to have. And we're programmed to have this problem, guys, and that's condemnation before investigation. And so I'm going to prove heliocentrism is not true. The modern science of heliocentrism, spinning ball Earth fairy tale, is based on religious superstition, not empirical observation. Kepler, the scientist who came up with what they use today as the theory for elliptical orbits, he was a court astrologer for the Holy Roman Emperor. And that gentleman came out with a revision of Copernicus's book, which was dedicated to the Pope 100 years before Galileo was labeled a heretic by the same church. So this is pay close attention, guys. This is not a scientific deception. It's a spiritual deception masquerading as a scientific deception. Now, if you pay attention to the storyline, the model was constructed from heathen religious beliefs. The religious dogma masquerading as science, I'm going to prove to you guys that. Now, real quick, let's look at the Satanic globe math. I don't know if most people are aware of this, but they teach us that the Earth orbits the sun, and the speed of that orbit is 66,600 miles per hour. They teach us that the Earth is tilted. The tilt of that Earth is 23.4 degrees or 66.6 degrees. The curvature of the Earth would be 0.666 feet or 8 inches per mile squared. The circumference of that ball would be 21,600 miles. Now, 216 is 6 times 6 times 6, so 21,600 is 6 times 6 times 600. The diameter of the moon, 2,160. So 6 times 6 times 60. The gravitational constant of Earth, 6.67. Now, you guys can believe that all this stuff is true, but I could no longer go on, one, believing that's true. I had to test it for myself and verify that it was all baloney. Now, to control the masses, Heliocentrism must be introduced early and often so it's a deeply ingrained belief. Okay? While at the same time, any idea of a flat earth is portrayed as, by the educational authorities, as a sign someone is abjectly ignorant or even insane. Guys, when it comes to proving if the earth is a globe or if it's flat, which I set out to do about 5 years ago, I've done probably hundreds of observations by now. Dozens of them are on my YouTube channel. We've used telescopes, infrared, laser tests, high-power zoom cameras, theodolites with land surveyors. I've also done some astrophotography, star trails, lunar eclipses. I was the first one to verify stars don't intersect the marine horizon as far as I know. They vanish off in the distance and fade away above the horizon. Then I caught the moon doing that in Denver, which would not happen on a heliocentric model. But I'm not going to bore you with the hundreds of observations I've done. I just have 3 arguments for the globe earthers.
All over the world we find buildings with windows and doors buried underground. Are we just inheriting the remnants of something much older, something buried literally beneath our feet? The mud flood theory suggests that a massive, mysterious worldwide flood may have buried entire cities centuries ago. Once you start looking, you might never see history the same way again. Look around your city.
Think about the lies we are told daily. They know if said enough times, it becomes fact in people's minds. Have you ever thought about the fact that the winners write the history, and somehow supposedly the good guy always wins, and we are the crazy people, since we decide to use critical thinking skills and evidence, not just what a government or king would allow in a history book.
Those half-buried windows and doors. If you go digging, sometimes literally, you'll find evidence of entire levels of buildings trapped beneath the streets we walk on. And if you take a closer look at some of the construction photos, it often looks more like people are digging out buildings rather than building them. Could it be that these structures were already there, buried by some event that wiped out the previous inhabitants, leaving only the tops of their buildings visible today? Maybe history isn't what we've been told. Maybe we're not building civilization, we're just rediscovering it, one buried doorway at a time.
Everyone knows you build structures with windows half buried. The excuses they use never make any sense.
Good afternoon, aloha from Florida. Just another quick message about the horizon. The horizon rises to eye level, regardless of how high you go. That is only consistent with a flat, stationary Earth. That is not consistent with the globe. The horizon should never rise even 1 inch as the observer rises. If you go up there in those condos, get on the very top of them, look out, the horizon will still be at eye level because you are looking out over a flat, level, horizontal plane. There is no curvature. I said the other day, if you have a boat 1 mile out, another boat 2 miles out, and a third boat 3 miles out on the horizon, why is the third boat higher than the second and the first? Why does the second boat appear higher than the first boat? Because the horizon is rising. If this was curvature going down and away, then the boats would be lower from each other as it gets farther away. But as soon as you start rising in elevation, the horizon rises with you. Taboo Conspiracy, lots of great videos on there, but here there's one where he does an interview with a F-15 fighter pilot, and he says one thing we know for sure is that whatever is when they're up flying in their F-15 fighter jet, when they're looking out at the horizon, anything that is below the horizon is below their aircraft. Anything that is above the horizon is above their aircraft. Why? Because they are flying through the air over a plane, and the horizon always rises to eye level. There is no curvature. There is no debate about this. You can believe that you're looking at something flat, level, horizontal always, and you can believe that that's curvature, but that's delusional and that's psychotic. You can look at the sun going through the sky, moving through our sky, which is obvious, and you can believe that the sun is not moving through the sky, but the earth is tilting and wobbling and rotating and revolving in spiral vortex. You can believe that, but that's delusional and psychotic. The earth is flat, and that's absolute scientific fact, whether you like it or not. So there is no debate. There's only denial from globe zealots. Have a great day. God bless.